Hi, welcome to the Kate Show. With me today is Dave Clements. How's it going, Dave?
It's going faster than it's coming, that's for sure.
So, who is Wally?
We never have found him. It's like, where's Waldo?
Okay. So, how did your involvement with Wally and the Weirdos begin?
Well, Russ Crouch and Mike Barton had an apartment in Woodlawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mike was there for, 3 weeks, a month, and he moved out. Russ had a lease, couldn't meet the payments. He needed a roommate. So I moved in. So call it fate, destiny, whatever. I had to be there when the stars and the planets aligned and Wally and the Weirdos was formed.
So, you made all the flyers and the artwork for the band?
Mm-hmm.
And what was your process?
Well, I've never had an original idea in my life. Everything I've done, I've stolen. And then I take it and do a takeoff or a twist or a distortion on it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the posters that we did basically was two things. I'd go through magazines and books of old films and stuff, find a photograph, and sometimes just use that photograph, right? And just come up with a caption or cartoon balloons or something. And the other thing would be to take that photo and do a cut and paste, like when they played Sgt. Pepper's. So that was an easy one. You take a picture of the Beatles, cut off their heads, stick the Weirdos in.
As far as I understand, you were the one to come up with the marketing idea to market the band as the worst band in the world. So what gave you the idea to do that?
Well, all advertising, they say, oh, this is, the greatest thing ever made. It's like the second coming of Christ, every new product, right? So we knew this wasn't going to work, right? So what we decided to do was just go the complete opposite, okay? We stink. If you don't like it, tough. And it worked, right? We did up these flyers, and no one showed up. I never had to fight to get to find a place at the bar. It was always empty, so it worked out real well.
Now, how did the band feel about these ads?
I don't think they're even aware of them, quite honestly.
Now, you also did all the photography for the Weirdos. Did you develop your own photos?
Yeah, I did. Well, I got to take a step back here for a second. We were talking about the posters.
Mm-hmm.
There's two people I have to give credit to for the posters. First person is Gary Smith. Very talented guy, artist. You ever go down the boardwalk and there's these guys that draw your portrait in about 5 minutes?
Like a caricature?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
He did. He was a really good artist. Well, he worked at the art supply store. So he had acquired this huge supply of press type. Now, I got to go explain what press type is. These days, if you want something, any kind of typeface, you just go to the menu, pick whatever you want, Times Roman, Helvetica, Old English, whatever, and it prints it out for you. Back then, you had to do it by hand. So they had this stuff called press type, which basically, it'd be in different typeface, and it'd be like rub-off letters, basically. You put it on a piece of paper, you rub it, there's your letter, A, B, C, D, So anyway, to make a long story short, I basically hijacked all this press type to use for the posters.
Wow.
And I think he was kind of peeved about that, but it was for a good cause, it benefited humanity, so. The other person I have to thank is Bud Deal, longtime friend of the family. Bud wanted to finish off his basement. Right, so I helped him, but at that time I could actually nail 2 boards together. So I helped him do the club basement, and in exchange he let me put a dark room in there. So that's where I would go ahead and process my negatives and make my prints.
Nice.
So I did all the black and white work. The color stuff I sent out because I didn't have the equipment or the talent or whatever to do color work.
Did anybody ever make any comments about stuff that you would send out to have printed?
No, as long as I paid the bills, I didn't care.
So how many photos would you usually take to get that perfect shot? Now, I do have some specific flyers that I would like to ask you about, if that's
Sure.
okay? All right, great. Okay, how about this guy?
All right, this one here, once again, we use props that inspired this one. Tommy happened to have this symbol that had a corner knocked out of it, right? And I said, it looks like someone took a bite out of it. So there we go. We had him hold the symbol, had a piece of cardboard in his mouth about the same shape as the piece that was missing, and that's how we got that one.
That's awesome. How about this one?
Sometimes we actually would go out and just shoot crazy photos to use, for the
neat.
posters. And this is one, we were down the block, so they're naked and they dance.
Very groovy.
That one there was shot at, the original photo was shot at once in Catonsville Community College. There was like a railing on a landing.
Oh.
So they're looking through this railing, so I cut out the little shot there, put it in a brick wall, and the guys were in jail where they belong.
That is so cool. In the psychiatric help video,
Yeah.
Whose idea was it for you to be riding down the highway in a wheelchair?
Well, most of our ideas developed from the props that we had available.
Okay.
Okay. The wheelchair, once again, I got to give credit here, that originally belonged to Joe Thorne. Tom Thorne's father, he was a disabled WW2 vet. Anyway, when poor old Joe passed on, we inherited his wheelchair, which we used as a dolly. We used it, you know, when we had wrist games, it would just be an extra chair. You could wheel in the other room and get a beer and not have to stand up. It was great. So we had the prop available. So we got a wheelchair, so off we went with the wheelchair.
But who decided to put you so that you're rolling down a highway?
Well, see, that's where location worked out well, because we lived close to Route 70 East. Was originally supposed to go, you know, across the Beltway, past Social Security, and go straight down into Baltimore. Well, for whatever reason, funding, EPA, I don't know, the project came to a halt. So you had this 6-lane divided highway that just stopped. And so the one lane, you know, no one was going on off. It is deserted 95% of the time.
Right.
So we had an empty highway to use.
So can you tell me about the making of the Secret Agent Man video?
Secret Agent Man, Secret Agent Man. Yeah.
Secret Agent Man video. We did a Secret Agent Man video. Oh, yeah, that's right. We did do a Secret Agent Man video. Yeah. Yeah, that was, you know, we went downtown to film a video, basically. We knew what we wanted to do. Now, the thing is, you probably couldn't get away with that today. You know, because you got to understand, this was before 9/11, right? This is back, you know, when the Soviets, before the Soviet boogeyman got replaced with the terrorist boogeyman, right? So back then, it was the good old days of the Cold War. The only thing we had to worry about was nuclear annihilation. So everyone was a lot more laid back then, you know. You know, so you could dress up in ridiculous costumes, run around, and seldom you got a second glance.
So when did the Weirdos start making appearances in your Super 8 films?
Probably from the get-go.
Pardon me, seafarers. Have you seen Jaworski?
Yes, I'm alright.
Because half of them were already appearing in films anyway.
Really?
So, yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. So what was it like having them on the set with you?
Usual crap. No, it was, you know, a bunch of weirdos. What can I say, you know? Of course, most of my friends were weirdos, so, you know, it worked out well. Like I say, we were all pretty much in the same, you know, into the Three Stooges, the Marx Brothers, W.C. Fields, you know, that sort of thing. So everyone was pretty much on the same page.
That's cool. So it was like a natural fit for
Yeah,
you and them to be working together.
Right. And a lot of these fellows I'd known for a long time anyway, from school and stuff. So we had a history.
So how did Wally and the Weirdos, Where Are They Now, come about?
I'm standing in the heart of downtown Woodlawn. It was here, in this top floor of this apartment building, that the idea of Wally and the Weirdos was first conceived in 1979.
Well, once again, no original idea there. If you've ever seen the Ruddles, okay, the Ruddles, Spinal Tap, that sort of thing, we just figured we'd do a mock documentary on the Weirdos. So
It's a brilliant film. It really is.
thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.